How many times have you believed in someone, hoped they would change, become better, stop lying, stop crossing your boundaries, and yet every time it was the same story all over again? You talk with them. There are some vague promises, but just a couple of weeks or months later, it all repeats itself. You start to wonder what you're supposed to do. Maybe the problem isn't with them, but with you. Maybe you expect too much from people. But on the other hand, a simple request like "don't lie" feels like something basic. So you begin digging into yourself, questioning whether you're being reasonable. But in reality, you're just facing a truth that's hard to accept. People don't change. Hey guys, welcome. It's me, your bro. Today, we're going to talk about a pretty controversial topic that some of you might find too harsh or even unfair. We're going to try to answer the question, do people actually change? Let's take a philosophical approach. First, why do we believe in the first place that people can change? I think it comes from both our nature and our naivety. When someone we know says things will be different, that they'll change, that it won't happen again, we want to believe them. And here's a key point. We want to believe, but that doesn't mean we should believe. I hope that makes sense. Most people who fail to keep their word once or twice will fail again the third, fourth, and fifth time. Not because they're bad or they want to hurt you on purpose, but because changing is hard. It's uncomfortable. It takes effort, and most people just aren't willing to put in that effort. Especially if there's someone around who'll just swallow everything and won't say a word. That's why you always need to have boundaries. You can't let people treat you like a rag, soaking up whatever they throw at you. If you don't set your own boundary, no one will do it for you. People will keep pushing, testing how much you're willing to endure. And every time you silently swallow your pain, you're basically giving them permission to do it again. I have my own story about this. I had a friend who, at one point, was one of my closest buddies. We spent almost every day together, at school, after school, weekends. We were really close. I genuinely thought our friendship would last a lifetime. But spoiler alert, it didn't. Even at the start of our friendship, I heard rumors that he often talked badly behind people's backs. Not just about me, but about everyone in general. At first, I didn't believe it. You know how it is. When someone's close to you, you give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe his words were twisted, taken out of context. But then I started hearing the same thing from other people, and eventually I began to notice it myself. He acted completely differently with me than he did with others. It was like two different people. Eventually, I decided to confront him directly. I laid out all the facts, all the things I'd heard and observed, and he just denied everything. Completely. He started justifying himself, saying it was a misunderstanding, that he's not like that at all. And to be honest, for a moment I even felt defeated. I thought maybe I got it all wrong. Maybe I let others, the so-called haters, influence my judgment. But then I remembered something important. I had noticed it myself, how nearly every conversation we had included gossip about other people. And honestly, I never liked that. I always felt uncomfortable when the topic turned to others, especially people we knew. And here's the craziest part. He would mock the same people he hung out with. Like one day he'd make fun of Vasya, and the next day he'd be laughing it up with him during class like nothing ever happened. That's when I understood. If he talks about others with me, then he probably talks about me with others too. Eventually, our communication just faded. There wasn't any dramatic falling out or big argument. I just started talking to him less and less. In the end, our conversations were limited to random school topics. I decided to keep things neutral. After all, we were in the same class and saw each other every day. From this experience, I came to one clear conclusion. If you don't feel at peace with someone, if you can't be yourself around them, if every time after talking with them you feel drained, doubtful, or question their sincerity, that's no longer friendship. That's just tolerance. It's better to speak up and say how you really feel. After that, the truth will reveal itself. In my case, I said how I felt, and this guy, let's call him a Pokemon, didn't take my words seriously. And that was my answer. Often, actions speak louder than words. Back to the question, do people change? I'd say yes and no. There's no black and white answer. Yes, people can change, but only in one case, if they truly want to. Not because you ask them to, not because they feel guilty, but because something inside them clicked. They have to find a real reason to reflect and change their behavior. If someone truly values you, I guarantee you, they'll do everything they can to change. It doesn't matter how many words are said or how many sorries are thrown around. If nothing changes, then that's their choice. Please learn to walk away from people like that. If you let them keep feeding you empty words, it's going to be really hard on you in the future. I know it's not easy. I know how hard it is to let someone go, especially if you were close, if you shared memories, inside jokes, but you can't live waiting for the day when that person wakes up and becomes who you imagined them to be in your head. From my own experience, I can tell you, most people don't change. Sure, their communication style might shift, maybe their habits or their worldview, but the core of their character, their soul, usually stays the same. And no matter how much you try to explain, to beg, to convince, if they don't want to change, you won't be able to do anything. You can be the kindest, most understanding person ever, and they'll still do what's convenient for them because they're comfortable and you're not. And to be fair, if absolutely everyone in their life accepts them the way they are, then they probably won't even see a reason to change. Only two things can change a person: their own decision or some serious trauma. In my life, a turning point was tied to a conflict I had with a girl over text. If you remember the video I made about being careful with your words, that was it. Back then, I was just a kid who didn't know how to talk properly, said a lot of awful things, and that situation completely reshaped who I became as a person. So to sum everything up, here's the simple truth. People change only if they truly want to, or because of a painful experience. If there's no desire, don't hope, don't plan, don't waste your energy, and don't wait for that magical moment when everything falls into place. Because if a person is comfortable with who they are, chances are they're not going to change. And the sooner you accept that, the easier your life will become. You'll take the pressure off yourself. You'll realize that we're all different. We all react differently to things. We're just different people. You and I, we're not obligated to be someone's life raft, pulling them out of the same mess over and over again. We're not here to be the ears that catch every sweet lie. So friends, be careful about who you let into your circle. Be honest with yourselves. Don't be naive and set clear boundaries. That's all for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. This topic is actually very deep, and I only scratched the surface. I didn't want anyone to fall asleep halfway through. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll meet again. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.